Hello and welcome to another episode of Tri Talk. Today with me, as ever, is my wonderful co-host, Aneta Grabmuller-Soldati. We have a fantastic guest joining us today. We have Sullivan Middaugh. Sullivan is a young, up-and-coming talent on the scene. I'm sure most of our listeners have probably heard of him. He has been one of the only guys to actually be an outsider and push the main favorites, mainly Felix at Oak Mountain. I would call him the world champion in short track, although that's not a title currently awarded, but I would call him the short track world champion, basically because he won in Moveno. Sullivan, welcome on the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Sullivan is a very young athlete. He's an athlete based in Arizona. Is that right? Correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. But the topic that we've kind of chosen for today is backgrounds and environments that shape athletes, because Sullivan has kind of three special backgrounds that he has to deal with. So firstly, Sullivan comes from the Middaugh family, where his dad, just to give a little bit of background, is 15-time, that's a mouthful, 15-time US XTERRA national champion. He is also ex-world champion in 2015. His brother is also ridiculously strong, Porter Middaugh. The trio of them can be seen racing on the circuit every year. They come to the World Champs mainly, also to the Oak Mountain races. And then you look at Sullivan, and he's part of the development team of the U.S. national team, Project Podium. That's I imagine a big part of your background. And also the third big environment that shapes you, I think, is this XTERRA environment that you, I think, perceive a little bit differently. So that's the topic for today. Bit of a longer introduction that we're used to. But Sullivan, where are you? What time is it for you? And what is up with you? And by the way, I think happy birthday today, because today's your birthday, right?
Yeah, it was yesterday.
Oh, happy birthday.
So, first day. Yeah. Thanks. Appreciate it. Yeah, no, I'm in Arizona right now. It's 7 a.m. But I had a session at 8, so I'd probably be up anyway. But I'm looking forward to chatting. And I spend most of the time in Arizona, but we actually leave and go to Park City during the summer because it's a little too hot in Arizona. And so we kind of split our time that way.
Oliver mentioned that you are from this massively big XTERRA family. But I read an interview with your dad, and he said that XTERRA or triathlon is not the path he envisioned for you or he chose for you. So how did it happen that actually all three of you are in XTERRA and are doing triathlon?
Yeah, no, growing up, I definitely, I think I saw myself maybe running collegiately in college, and that was kind of my main focus, is running in high school. And so, yeah, I didn't really see triathlon as an option for me, and I didn't really do any draft legal racing, so I didn't really think Project Podium was really a route that I would be able to go. But yeah, it kind of all came together real nicely. I had a couple injuries in high school, so I started mountain biking quite a bit, and in 2021, I think it was, that was the year I was biking quite a bit, and I would do the XTERRA Beaver Creek in my hometown every year, and I ended up doing pretty well. I think I was maybe 6th overall, but I raced in the age group race, and that ended up qualifying me for XTERRA Worlds, and that was the last year in Maui. My dad was getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, and so my family was going to bring me there, and that's where I ended up meeting my current coach, Parker Spencer, from Project Podium, because it was a weird COVID year, and that was the only race happening in the world, and so they decided to go there as a team, and it just happened to be that I passed him on course at some point when it was a super muddy year, and he had crashed or something, and I went by him, and he was like, oh, maybe I should talk to him as my next recruit. And so yeah, it was kind of this everything kind of lined up for me. And yeah, I met him at the dinner afterwards, and we kept in touch, and the rest is history.
You mentioned running and cycling, but when did you start swimming then?
Yeah, no, I did like a low-key swim team kind of throughout the summers growing up, but I would really only swim like a 50 at a time. I wasn't really doing any like training, and the races were like a 50 or maybe 100 sometimes. And so I had a little bit of background, but I didn't really swim all throughout high school. And so that's definitely my weakness and what I've been having to work on more especially in draft legal where the swim is really important.
But am I understanding it right that you started to swim only after high school, like meaning 1920?
Yeah, that's when I started like really focusing on the swim and really swimming like
That's
5 days a
ridiculous.
week. And yeah,
That's
no, but
crazy.
I've made a big jump in swimming where I've been able to, I think I had enough of a background where I could pick it up pretty quick, but yeah, definitely a lot of technique where I had to change and learn. So
Yeah, your engine is ridiculous. I mean, you're so strong on the bike. And looking at your road results, not just your Xterra racing, but your road results, it seems like the guys on the draft legal stuff maybe give you, 20, 30 seconds on the swim or something like that, and then you kind of catch them on the bike and run with them, which, of course, the running is incredibly fast, but then that's such a huge effort that you have to do on the bike. It's really impressive. And then coming into Xterra, I'd expect that like somebody so young racing on the road would just be an incredible swimmer, but that's not your strong suit, which is really interesting.
And you are 22, right?
yes, yeah, I just turned 22.
So
Since
that
yesterday.
means like 4 years ago.
Yeah, I think, pretty much 4 years ago, and yeah, once I kind of decided I was going to join Project Podium, I was like, okay, I need to get in the pool and start swimming.
And you are the U23 American champion on the road, right?
Yeah, so I guess I was first U23 at
Second overall.
at the like America's Championship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. After
Yeah,
3
yeah,
years
yeah.
of swimming.
It's
That is very
ridiculous.
impressive.
And so yeah, that race I was, I think maybe a minute 30 out of the water, and it was Olympic distance.
A minute 30!
But it was a fairly, yeah, and so I had to make up quite a bit of time on the bike, as usual. In a sprint, I'll be, kind of like you said, like maybe 40, 50 seconds behind.
How do you make that up? How does that work? Do you
Yeah,
you just
it's
push? Do
usually a
people
big
work with you?
effort right off. Yeah. Uh, yes, some of the time, but usually it's a lot of time in the wind for me. And so, yeah, no, I just, as soon as I get out of the water, it's a big, depending on the gap, I'll not go so hard in the beginning, but the faster I catch, usually the better. I would like to catch in the first half of the bike because if I don't have time to recover, the run usually goes pretty poorly. Yeah.
But is it something then you work on a lot or you focus on a lot to improve in the swimming?
Yeah, no, that's been a big focus this past winter. It was definitely a big focus. I was swimming like 10 hours a week, and I think my biggest week was like 40,000 yards. Yeah, and I went to the Olympic Training Center and worked with a swim specialist, Andy Potts there, and he helped me with some technique stuff, and we did 2 5K swims a day, so it was like over 2 days we swam like, I think it was like 20,000 meters, so it was a good block there, but yeah, no, it's a continuous
it takes.
process. Yeah. Yeah, and
That's awful.
not just like working one day is, no,
I
it
think,
was tiring.
Every triathlete or I guess every triathlete has to go through that phase, when you just have to swim a lot to be in the front. And sometimes you do it when you are 16, 17, sometimes you have to do it later in life. But I guess if you want to be in the front, you just have to do it at some point. It is what it is.
Yeah, totally, especially in draft legal where it's
Yeah.
really important
I mean,
to get out.
Alain Devozan was giving us very similar numbers to 3 weeks ago when we talked to her. She's also focusing now on road distance, and she was saying, the same amount of kilometers. So, good luck. I hope it pays off.
But where does this strength of yours come from on the bike? You know, because you didn't mention it, but you're just world class on the bike.
Yeah, I guess I don't know for sure, but I mean, growing up, I do the mountain bike series in the summer. We had a local like town series where there'd be races throughout the summer, and I'd do that since age 6. I was doing that, but yeah, I wasn't training on the bike, and I never really rode over an hour and a half really in high school until I got to Project Podium, where I started doing longer rides. Yeah, but I think biking is definitely, I enjoy it a lot, and so I think that makes it easy because I really like to do it.
But you also grew up you're from Avon, Beaver Creek, that
Yeah.
area? Yeah, what's the altitude? I raced there and it's insane.
Yeah, it's like 7,500 feet. I don't know what that is in meters, maybe.
If I remember correctly, it was around 2,000 meters above the
2,000.
sea.
Yeah, or 2,000, yeah. Yeah.
Around that. You come from Avon, Beaver Creek area, which is very high in altitude, and the World Championship this year is going to be in Ruidoso, which is also very high. Are you excited? Do you think that is going to be your advantage and you can have a good race there?
Yeah, no, I think so. Yeah, like you said, I'm from Colorado. I lived and grew up at like 7,500 feet, and so that was pretty normal to me growing up at an altitude like that, and I didn't really know any different. But yeah, no, I think that's going to suit me well in Ruidoso. I'm really looking forward to it, and it's, I think, maybe a similar environment to what I'm used to too, not as wet as Mulvano.
And not a big trouble for you as well, I think.
Yeah, no, I can probably drive maybe 8 hours or 10 hours, something like that. So it'll be a lot easier travel.
Yeah. No time difference.
Yep, exactly. The
But
only
also no short track.
Oh yeah, yep, no short track. Yeah.
So now
No.
you have to win the main race.
That'll be the goal, I guess.
Well, but it's cool to hear that it still fits into your road triathlon calendar. You race a lot on the road. I actually wasn't aware how much do you race on the road. So what's the plan for this season? Is the focus also on the road, or are you planning to do more of XTERRA?
Yeah, no, a little bit of both. I think the main focus is kind of turning into more on the road draft legal stuff. The Olympic qualification period starts May 18th this year, and so it's kind of all hands-on deck for that. And yeah, and so I think the main focus will be draft legal. I'll try and be getting points for that, but yeah, I definitely, like you said, in Ruidoso, I think that will suit me well. So I think it would be good for me to do that, but I need to figure out a race to qualify for Worlds, and so it's kind of hard with the busy draft legal schedule, but I think right now some races are moving around, but I think Oak Mountain might be a possibility, so I'm looking forward to that.
Do the project you're part of, the environment you're part of, do they allow you to race XTERRA? Are they open to it, or is it more you should focus on the Olympic and do not get distracted?
Yeah, no, my coach, Parker Spencer, is pretty open to me and letting me do XTERRA. I think like with Fleur Duffy and Hayden Wild, like it kind of shows that there is some crossover, and I think XTERRA can help draft legal and draft legal can help XTERRA. And so, yeah, I think that the main focus is kind of turning more into the road, but XTERRA is my roots. It's what I grew up on the trail running, mountain biking, so I think that it's good for me to keep XTERRA in there, to keep it, mix it up a little bit and have fun.
Is there anything, I just saw a couple videos of you doing some TT races. Is there anything, or TT race, there's some really cool shots, which I encourage our listeners to go take a look at. You work with some photographer, and it was fantastic, really good stuff. But considering this talent of yours on the bike, have you considered kind of doing some bike racing along that? Maybe even just to help the development of, you as an athlete as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this year I pretty recently I talked with my coach and we kind of wanted to test out the cycling time trial since my bike is kind of my strength and kind of make my strength even stronger. And so that was kind of the idea with the TT bike. My goal is to maybe do U23 Nationals in June for USA Cycling. So yeah, no, it's been a fun project. It's a lot different, the time trial position, a little more aggressive, but that also is really fun for me.
Can you talk about the environment that you're in? Because for us Europeans, it's very different, it's very specific. And I've heard about it a little bit, and from my understanding is that there are several centers where they bring young talents and they try to develop them, and the training is centralized. Am I understanding it right?
Yeah. So I'm a part of Project Podium, a part of USA-Triathlon, and yeah, we're like a U23 development team. It's a Olympic development team, and yeah, we're in one training environment. So we've got, I think, 10 or 11 guys, and so in the U.S. they have women's Division I triathlon, but they don't have that for the men, and so that's why this group was formed, is to kind of make a development route for the men and try and have the same success on the Olympic stage as the women, because the women have been doing really well in the past with some really great athletes, and the men are growing too, but not as many medals as the women. And so yeah, this is kind of a pathway for guys to try and get a podium at the Olympics.
But what does that mean in practice? Are you all living in the same place? Are you all training together? What does it look like?
Yeah, no, it's a daily training environment. We all live in apartments together. We train every day together. You have 1 or 2 sessions a day together. And so like today I'm going at 8 a.m. and we're going to go do some VO2 efforts together, and then we're going to do a run off the bike. And then this afternoon we all show up to the pool together, and we'll do a hard workout there. But yeah, so we live together, we train together, which is really fun, and we get to travel together too. So yeah, no, it's a full-on 24/7 training environment.
It sounds like you guys get a lot of support from the environment. So I imagine there's like a physio that you work with, somebody who helps you with nutrition, and is there like a shared coach or something like that, or how much are you actually getting?
Yeah, no, it's quite a bit of support. Parker Spencer's our head coach, and then we've got assistant coach, John High, and we have a full-time videographer, Trevor. Yeah, no, it's a lot of support. We're funded to travel and like equipment and stuff like that. We're funded, and so yeah, it's a very, I'm really grateful for all the support. It's everything I could ask for, and yeah, it's really cool to be able to travel world and also at the same time work towards a degree. I'm studying online at Arizona State. I'm almost done with my degree, but yeah, no, it's good.
It sounds like it's quite a privilege to be part of such a group. What does it take to get in, to be the chosen one for that?
Yeah, so when I was joining Project Podium, I was the only one like from my year to be on Project Podium. It is very select group. Parker, my coach, does pretty much all the recruiting. So yeah, there are some like standards, and I didn't really think I met all of them, but I had a good enough bike and run where I went and did a kind of recruitment visit, and I swam with Glenn Mills, who is like a technique specialist, and he kind of said, yeah, like I could see improvement in the future in my swim, and so Parker's kind of made maybe a little bit of a risk with me just with my swim, but and so I think it was worth it though.
That is really cool. I have to say.
But it sounds like I completely understand the risk because you have so much raw talent, and I think it's clear, and you can see that within the XTERRA races that you do. I think that all completely makes sense. But you talked about the support that you get, and something we opened off air, and I wanted to out myself a little bit. So, the two races that you did this year, Oak Mountain and Moveno, the short tracks, both of which you won. At both of them, you at some point went to the front of a race and just started pushing it on the bike, right? And I was sitting here in my chair being like, oh no, it's bad tactics, draft behind them and yada yada, right? So correct me and explain to me kind of what you're thinking going into the race, what your approach is, in terms of strategy, in terms of race strategy, right? Because you see the people in the race, and what do you think? Are you focused on a specific individual? What's your approach to kind of making the difference?
Yeah, no, I think with short track, it's so short that I'm almost not thinking a whole lot. I'm just trying to go as hard as I can for as long as I can.
That's what I love about short tracks. No tactics.
Yeah, and so I think that, like on the bike, if I can make it to the front, then I think I like to push the pace, and I think that allows me to kind of dictate the pace a little bit more and go faster in the parts I'm good at going fast at, which is usually climbing or on the flats, whereas maybe the other guys are a little bit better descending and through the technical sections, and so I think that allows me to kind of go my pace through the course. And then, I think that I don't really think about going to the front. I just, if I can, I can. And then just see what we have left on the run. Usually it's quite a shock at the beginning, but you kind of work into it, and usually my legs get better throughout the run.
And for the long course, is there a difference in how you approach the races?
Yeah, I think that it is a longer race for me. Like, I don't train super specified for the XTERRA races. I don't do like as heavy of maybe bike weeks, but I do think that the bike is still my strength. And so I think just the duration of the race is harder for me. And so at least right now, I think that I've gotten better the last like 4 years.
I mean, you're still just 22.
Yeah,
like,
and yeah.
The endurance gets better with age. Like,
yeah, exactly.
We can't deny that.
Yeah, and so I think that like pacing myself is kind of important. Usually the first lap of the bike, like I just want to go, but I usually pay for it in the second half of the race. And so yeah, I think that I try and pace myself a little bit more and try to go with the moves that I can, but yeah, it's a little bit more paced than the short track.
And here you see that relationship with your dad and with your brother a lot, right? Where your brother's just, it was ridiculous. I was looking at his split times, and it's this, what you talk about, right? The bike's just, it's a long race for you guys because you don't train for this sort of effort. And sitting on the mountain bike for 2 hours and going full out is just, that's so hard. And then doing the 10K run. But the 10K run, your guys' times on that are ridiculously good, and it completely omits the fact that you've done a 2-hour cross-country race. And that's really surprising to me. So kind of, can you talk to me about how this dynamic between you, your brother, and your dad works at these races, and how, if you guys compete with one another and whatnot?
Yeah, no, it's been really special to be able for all three of us to race at like quite a few XTERRAs. Yeah, I didn't think that I'd be able to do that, and so it's really cool. And yeah, I think that we're pretty competitive with each other, but it's not toxic or anything like that. And I think that we aren't really waiting for one another or anything like that either. But yeah, like I remember it was the first year in Moveno. It was super muddy, maybe the second muddiest year. Last year was pretty bad, but I was struggling on the bike in the mud, and my dad came past me and he gave me a lot of like motivating words, and I tried to go with him. And so I think it's more motivating in the race. We're competitive, but it's also we're not waiting for one another. So it's good.
I grew up in a very similar family. My mom and my dad were both racing XTERRA. My sister chose to pursue cross-country skiing, so we haven't raced together in triathlon, but I did start some races with my mom, even though when I started to race elite, she retired, so we overlapped only like 1 or 2 years, and our strengths are very different. She's a bad swimmer, I'm a very good swimmer, so we rarely met on the course. But it is for sure something really special to be on the start line with your parent. But your dad mentioned, or I don't know if it was you or your dad, that you never been coached by your dad. Is it because you started to do triathlon only that late, or was it a conscious choice that you didn't want to have that relationship? How is it for you?
Yeah, no, I think that growing up, most of the time I was just doing sports for fun, and so I wasn't really training necessarily, at least like up until high school. And so I was more just kind of doing cross country or track or Nordic skiing for my dad was one of the coaches in middle school for cross country, but it was still only like 3 days a week, and it wasn't super like intense training or anything like that. But yeah, all through high school and even now, yeah, you know, I think he more made the decision not to really get involved with coaching, and I had pretty good coaches growing up, and so he left that more to the coaches I had, which I think was good. But I still am able to go to him for advice with the training I'm doing now, or then kind of see what he thinks about my effort or stuff like that.
Is it still you asking your dad for advice? Because in my family, at some point, it turned the other way around. Now it's more my mom coming to me for an advice.
Yeah, no, I am normally going to him, but yeah, he'll give it if he feels like he needs to, but it's usually me asking questions and stuff, and it's been really helpful to travel with him to the XTERRA races because he has so much experience, and so it's made those races a lot better because he knows exactly what we're getting into. I mean, he's done Oak Mountain a dozen times, and so
I read that he has done every single edition.
that's wild. Yeah. So he has so much experience, which has been awesome. But also, yeah, I think he has stayed out of coaching me.
And you never felt a pressure to be as good as him or be better than him. Because for me, it was always my goal to beat my mom, to beat my dad.
Yeah,
to have the fastest split in the family.
Yeah, no, I think that, no, I never really was like, I want to be better necessarily, but I think that it's cool now to kind of follow what he's doing. And so I think that, yeah, it's motivating, but yeah, there was no pressure growing up or anything like that. Yeah, I think it all happened pretty naturally. And I did triathlon because I wanted to do triathlon, not just because he did it my whole life.
That's the best thing when you compare this sort of approach, the parent comes kind of as a trendsetter and just inspires the child to kind of pursue that sport as well, rather than when you see sometimes these overmotivated parents, you know, micromanaging their kids, telling them what to do in transition. I can't, you know, I can't really stand it. And so this is exactly, and your dad being enlightened enough to understand that not getting involved with coaching you is a good idea, right? Because then it just becomes really difficult to manage the relationships. So hats off. But I have one question. Could you share with us maybe like a nugget of your dad's knowledge that he shared with you coming to maybe some of these courses? Is there something that comes to mind?
Yeah, I think that a lot of it is just, it's really little things. I think that something that always sticks with me is he always is like, make risks with your effort, because I think that a lot of times I'm like, oh, I got to stay with this guy on the downhill, and then I end up crashing or something. But I think that when he was like, no, like make more risks with how hard you're going rather than trying to stick with someone on the downhill or something like that. And so I think that maybe that's not how he meant it, but that's how I think of it for me is it's better for me to see if I can hold a wheel climbing rather than descending or something like that. But no, he knows a lot, just even when it comes to tires or where to train on a certain day or kind of leading up, like what parts of the course we need to see, like going to Oak Mountain or something like that. He's like, okay, we're going to do this part of the course today, we'll do the next part tomorrow, and then I know the shortcut and we'll do the downhill, and I don't know, stuff like that.
No, that certainly helps a lot. As someone who was new to XTERRA I was 29 when I started doing XTERRA, 28. It took me at least 2 seasons to figure out which tires I should use, and that there are actually several types of tires, so definitely very helpful.
For sure, yeah, definitely. No, there's a lot to choose from, and yeah, it makes it easier.
And so, speaking of dynamics between athletes, what is the dynamic between you and the other pros when you get to the start line? Because you're one of the only outsiders who's really able to compete with them. I mean, when we had, Richard Murray come to XTERRA, he didn't push these guys as far as you did, right? I mean, of course, Hayden Wild, but Hayden Wild's just nuts, right? And so kind of that's the level you're at with these athletes. So what's the dynamic between you and Jens Emil or Artur Serrier and Felix?
Yeah, at least for me, it's been really friendly. And I think that there's a lot of camaraderie between everyone. Like we're all competing against each other and we're all racing each other on race day, but it's a pretty close community afterwards. Like in the, events afterwards, there's
the after
everyone's
party.
After party. It's all pretty friendly, and I remember even as early as the XTERRA in 2021, XTERRA Worlds, where I wasn't even racing pro, like Arthur came up and he said like, good job, and like stick with it, and I remember that pretty well, and so I think that I want to beat them all as much as I can, but it's also a pretty good racing environment.
What's the difference between that and like the road? Because it sounds like a different environment to me, maybe as an outsider.
Yeah, I think that the XTERRA community is just so close that you know everyone really well, especially if you do the whole European circuit, where in the road, I think that there's a lot more races and you see a lot of different athletes at different races. And so I think XTERRA really has that close community where you spend a lot of time with people during the race, but also there's a lot going on, like the after party after the race, that you get to know your competitors.
I think this has been fantastic and we should wrap it up. I would like to do quick fire questions because we haven't done them in a long time. And I think they would be really interesting.
True.
Really interesting from you, Sullivan. So and very just quick fire, so rattle off whatever answer comes to mind. First question, if you could take another racer's skill/strength, what would it be? For example, to run like Artur Serrier, to swim like Michele, or, to bike like Sullivan?
Yeah, I'd take, I don't know, maybe Arthur's run, or we'll go with like Jens Roth's swim or something like that.
Good answer. If you had to spend the rest of your life training in one location, where would it be? Would it be Arizona, where it's 110 degrees all the time?
I love Arizona, but I think that I'd train at home in Avon or Vail, Colorado. I like that area.
I've been there and I can understand.
It's a hard winter, but I can go on the trainer for a couple months.
It's good for character building.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And last question, what is your favorite XTERRA memory/experience?
Ooh, wow. There's a lot. Yeah, I think that I think it was XTERRA Nationals USA National Championship 2021. It was my first ever elite race, first time racing against my dad. So I think that was a pretty cool experience, and I ended up taking the win, but I had a flat on the bike that I had to do the whole descent with. And then my dad caught me in transition and we ran out together. So I think that was a pretty special race for me.
Sully, thank you so much for coming on. I hope to see you at World Champs in the US next year. I think you're going to be one of the guys to watch. I think there might be two other Middaughs lining up who also might be favorites for the race. It'll be really interesting to see that. I also hope to maybe talk to you soon before you do the Olympics. Fingers crossed. And yeah, thank you so much. Big shout out to Sully. Go check out Sully and his social media. Go check out our social media. Sully, do you want to give a shout out to any of your sponsors who support you through this journey?
Sure. Yeah, no, I appreciate you. Thank you for having me on. My sponsors, I guess right now, are The Feed, the Athletic Club at the West End, and Synergy. They've been great supporters for me and have been awesome to get me through training and racing.
That's all from us. Thank you, Sully, for coming on. Thank you, Aneta, for making the time. Hopefully talk to you guys later. Ciao, ciao.